You're welcome back to the gavel. The Senate has made some more progress in amending the Public Procurement Act. The bill has passed second reading, and Senate President Ahmed Lawan is optimistic that when passed, the amended Public Procurement Act will help address the problems of poor budget implementation. The Senate has started the process of amending the Public Procurement Act. Two bills on the Act have passed second reading in the Senate. They are the Bill for an Act to amend the National Council on Public Procurement and Bureau of Public Procurement Act No. 14 of 2007. Senators blame the inadequacies in the Public Procurement Act 2007 for the poor budget implementation recorded annually and corruption in public procurement in Nigeria. Senate President Ahmed Lawan says the amendment of the Public Procurement Act 2007 by the National Assembly will guarantee the successful implementation of the 2020 budget.
I want to take this opportunity to urge all stakeholders who have anything to do or any interest on public procurement in the country and even beyond, to take the advantage of the public hearing the Senate will hold on this bill. Because it is important we have the contributions and submissions from stakeholders so that we have an enriched amendment at the end of the day.
More lawmakers made their feelings known about the bill during the debate.
The problem with government in procurement and contract processes, where I have a problem, I don't know whether the bills capture them properly or not. When a contract is awarded and there are dates for payments, when government fails to pay, the implication of failure to pay. I'm lucky I belong to the Committee on Local and Foreign Debt. And when we see the debt profile of this country, debt profile that are being owed local contractors, you will bend your face and ask a question. Why did we award the contract if we know we cannot pay?
Mr. President, let me say that within the context of this debate, it is important we establish that the time frame for procurement is unnecessarily too long. On the average, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. Some agencies spend the whole year going through, rigmaroling through different things. And at the end of the day, we even end up having agencies, MDAs, that because of delays in the procurement process, funds are finally mopped up at the end of the financial year.
Mr. President, another one major area which other colleagues have spoken about, which I want us to look at, is the issue of this certificate of no objection. And one of the main reasons why you see the Bureau of Public Enterprise, which I also want to suggest, that enterprise, as presently constituted, must be unbundled. Must be unbundled. And while the bill is under consideration at the committee level, one critical area we must look is the current composition of this particular board. You notice that 3/4 of the agencies of the government goes after this certificate of no objection. And this is in a bid to circumvent the process.
This procurement amendment must also look into the issue of contract splitting. Contract splitting. Because if you take an agency like NDDC, for example, how many of NDDC contracts has gone to Federal Executive Council, for example, but they sit down there and they work under the threshold of 249 million and award over 10, 18 contracts.
The Senate President refers the Public Procurement Act to the relevant committees for further legislative work. Meanwhile, the Senate is asking the federal government to collaborate with states and local governments as well as the private sector to invest massively in infrastructure to promote investment in agriculture and solid minerals. The request comes after a lawmaker sponsors a motion on the need for the continuous implementation of policy reforms to diversify the economy through agriculture and solid minerals.
That the Senate do convince that the laudable policy initiatives by the federal government To reposition the agricultural and solid mineral sectors to contribute to sustainable development of the Nigerian economy needs to be ramped up and taken advantage for optimal utilization for the diversification of the economy.
We need to, one, not really legalize the illegal one. I think it's not legalizing the illegal money, but to formalize and control the money activities in the various states in such a way that the money will be done in a modern way. Government will be able to realize revenue. People will be gainfully employed and be paid commensurate fees to their labor. A situation whereby some foreigners come to collaborate with some wise people in various local areas. They exploit the labor of their local people and also don't pay any taxes.
The upper chamber is also asking the federal government to invest in the collection of geoscientific information and data on the estimates of mineral deposits and grade of the country's mineral reserves to attract investors. Now let's take a look at more activities in Parliament during the week. It's the turn of the House of Representatives to debate the finance bill, which was sent in by President Muhammadu Buhari. The Senate has already debated and passed the bill through second reading. The bill proposes tax reforms such as an increase in value-added tax, companies' income tax, among others.
Our present VAT rate is 5%. We seek to increase it with this bill to 7.5%, which of course is still one of the lowest in our sub-region.
It's going to affect the poor masses, it's going to affect the rich. But I tell you that indirectly, if you tax me because I'm flying the aeroplane, definitely, considering the kind of politics we play, it is going to fall back indirectly to the masses because whatever I'm going to take to the masses is going to be reduced.
Very first amendment proposing the company income tax, which has to do with the elimination of multiple or double taxation, which has been the bane of growth of businesses in this country.
This same bill was passed by the Senate about a week ago, despite complaints by some senators that the details of the bill were not made available to them. However, in the House of Representatives, the details were made available to the lawmakers, although, according to one of them, just before plenary. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives wants the federal government to commence full reactivation and resuscitation of the coal industry across the country. The House made the resolution after adopting a motion on the need to resuscitate the abandoned coal mining sites in the country. In his lead debate, the sponsor of the motion highlights the abounding socio-economic opportunities in the sector.
The federal government, in a bid to revitalize the coal mine industry and attract foreign direct investment, signed a multi-billion-dollar MOU with a Chinese firm, HTG Pacific Energy Consortium, to generate power from coal in Enugu. This company was meant to develop these large coal resources and construct coal-fired generating plants that will connect to the country's electricity distribution grid. Despite the renewed attention brought to the Nigerian coal industry in recent times, there has not been any major headway in the industry, as this certainly has the potential inter alia to provide employment, increased IGR, and in diversification of the economy. To urge the federal government through its agencies, BPE and Ministry of Mines and Steel Development, to fully commence the planned reactivation and resuscitation of the coal industry and conduct investigation on the issuance of licenses in coal mining blocks to investors in order to find out why they haven't commenced mining of the blocks allocated to them. Further urge the federal government to take cognizance of the various environmental impacts, water and air pollution, loss of landscape and aesthetic degradation, health challenges and other hazardous effects on the host communities to ensure that their safety is paramount once the coal mining project is reactivated.
The House also resolved to embark on a fact-finding mission to coal mines in Enugu, Kogi, Delta, Nasarawa and Gombe states. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives is calling on the federal government to introduce free and compulsory newborn screening for sickle cell disease in all hospitals in the country. The House made the resolution after considering a motion on the management of sickle cell disease in Nigeria, sponsored by Representative Umar Sarki. Moving the motion, Representative Sarki explains that data from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention showed that Nigeria has the largest population of people with sickle cell in the world. The House also endorsed compulsory genotype tests for intending couples as part of measures to prevent sickle cell disease. The lower chamber is also asking government registries, churches and mosques to demand a test before joining persons as husband and wife.
Worried that although the United Nations has identified sickle cell disease as a global health challenge and have set aside 19 June as a World Sickle Cell Day to annually reflect an existing effort in tackling the cause of the disease in Nigeria, which has the highest cases of disease globally, has not shown any serious concern. Also worried that Nigeria is yet to establish a newborn screening, which is key in early detection and intervention as commonly practiced in the United States and UK, as well as the developing countries such as Ghana, where newborn screening awareness campaign has significantly reduced infant mortality rate arising from sickle cell disease. Resolve: call on the Federal Ministry of Health to 1. Introduce pre- and compulsory newborn screening program, which shall include screening sickle cell disease in all hospitals in Nigeria. 2. Provide free treatment and counseling service to patients with sickle cell disease. 3. Sensitize religious institutions and the judiciary to include result of genotype tests as one of the conditions for marriage. 4. Collaborate with government and private broadcasting stations for continuous awareness campaign on the cause of health consequences and solution to the disease. 5. Urge Federal Ministry of Education to include sickle cell education in science subjects in all primary and secondary schools.
Now, this is where we draw the curtains on this week's edition of The Gavel. If you have any views on any of the issues discussed, please email us on thegavel@channelstv.com. Thank you for staying with us and see you again next week.